What's good, everybody? Welcome into your NFL pregame show. I'm Rob Trujillo. That's Dave for the dudes. How we still got to come up? We got to come up with a nickname for you, or else I'm going to keep doing it.
Every week, man. Every week.
And he hates it so much. Hates it so much. Dave G hanging out. Rob T hanging out. You can find our handles here. Boop boop. Find us on social media. Yeah, Dave, we got to get you. We got to get you with a couple. Yeah, you got it. Just take your time. We got to get you. We got to get you live on a couple of your handles here, man. Yeah, we don't have you live on any of your channels.
I'm not here for the fame. I'm here for the game. You know that.
Well, let's talk about the game because you told me something right before we went on air. And listen, I am not like, in another life, I feel like I could like live in Vegas and be a betting guy. I feel like I watch enough football, I understand enough football, and I understand how betting works enough to do that. But I am by no means a professional, right? Like I'm not a boss. I'm not a shark. I'm not a whatever. But you told me something before we started here, and I was like, we got to talk about this on air. Because much like I tell people, don't bet parlays. They're for suckers. They're trying to get you with that big prize money price tag, and you're really throwing away money. If you're betting a parlay, know that you're throwing away money. And if you're okay with throwing away money, that's fine. I do it all the time for fun. Yeah. I mean, but when I bet a parlay, I bet like $2 on it because I know I'm literally just throwing away cash. So tell me what you told me before the show.
So I was looking at the spreads this week, and like the Detroit and Tennessee game was 11.5. And I know your rule, anything over 10 is kind of tough. And
that's
there were a couple
real rule though. That's just my personal rule. But
and there are some games I'm sure you would wind up, betting that because you're like, this team's going to get blown out and you don't worry about it. But there were just a couple of games this week where I was like, I don't love 11.5, but if you told me 9.5, I could probably live with that. So I use the alternate spread function in BetMGM to pull that spread down just a little bit.
Never.
And get the hook.
Never.
It's the difference between if I bet the spread and it hit, getting, for a $2 bet, you'd wind up getting, I don't know, 382 or 384, whatever it is, or getting 350 if you win, having teased it down a couple of points. I can live with that.
All right. So for those of you that don't know, Dave is new to betting.
Sports betting.
Sure, right. And I have been my groomed since a child because like my family pick'em pool was pick these games against the spread, and little did I know that my family was setting me up for a lifetime of games. So there is a couple different things that you can do. So when you do that, you automatically start forfeiting money, right? Like stupid. But if you tease multiple games all together, you can hold on to those lines, but you then have to hit multiple of the games. And so there's different ways to do it, but one of the ways that you can do it is you don't even have to hit all of them. You just need to hit like 2 out of 3. And if you hit 2 out of 3, your return is different, but you can tease 3 games and give them all 6 points to their spread. And if you're feeling real good about a game, it's a good way to get a teaser in there without losing a whole bunch of money. So I've got the first 3 games on BetMGM up right now, and it's Ravens, Browns, Titans, Lions, and Cardinals, Dolphins. Let's say I wanted to move all 3 of those spreads. I could bet all 3 of them and get plus 6 points to either side and keep essentially my line. I just need to hit on all 3 of them to keep my line. So it would be, so like Ravens are minus 6.5. Say I wanted Ravens minus 2.5. You like the Titans, but not, or you like the Lions, but not minus 11.5. So if I tease that down to from 11.5 down to 5.5, and then let's say I like the Cardinals over the Dolphins, but 4.5 isn't enough. So I add 6 points there, and then that's plus 10.5. And when you do that, you should be able, even though you're getting 6 points, which is a ton, you should be able to keep your odds the same as long as you have 3 games in there. And there's a bunch of different ways to tease bets like that. But if you just go in and pick the alternate spread and you bet $2, you're going to win like 47 cents. And then it's like, well, what's the point of really like you're late? If you lose $2, but if you win 40. What's the point?
I want that 42 cents, brother.
Oh, come on, man. Not even, you're putting way more on the line, and you know the NFL's a 50-50 proposition. Like, if you stand to lose so much more than you stand to gain, I don't know. I don't see the point of throwing down $5 on it, but I guess that's up to you. So I just wanted to talk about that on air because I don't know if everybody knows about that. I didn't know if you knew about that.
You talked about it briefly last week or 2 weeks ago, and you may have to hold my hand and walk me through that. But let's get into these games.
All right. Well, before we do, let's just say real quick, we normally have Strohs with us. He is out today, but look for him. We are still on his channel, so if you're watching us on one of his channels, feel free to give us a like or subscribe or follow or whatever. But he'll hopefully be back next week. And then this is your NFL pregame show. So if you've got questions about who you should start or sit, if you've got questions about your bets, if you've got questions about your survivor pools, whatever, we're here to help answer them for you. We will keep an eye on the comments throughout the entire time. So if you want to ask us something in specific, feel free to ask, and we will try to get to it as quickly as we can. We normally run down the games in chronological order, so we will start. Are they showing Kyler Murray taking a piss? Holy shit. I've got ESPN.
What channel are you watching?
ESPN, dog. Mm-hmm. I got the ESPN pregame show on, and Kyler Murray was like standing by the edge of the field, and like his 2 hands were down by his, junk down there, and he's like looking around like you do when you're taking a leak. Oh, camera angles matter. All right. So anyway, if you've got any stuff that you want to throw at us, we are happy to talk about it. Let's start with Ravens Browns here. And interesting, Dave, you are the czar of the injury report. Do you know who's starting for the Browns? It should be Jameis Winston, but
I think it's going to be Jameis Winston. But I also believe they're going to make that a game time decision to give a little bit of drama to the situation because there wasn't any beforehand.
Plus 8.5 on the page that I pulled up before we started here. On my app right now, it's down to plus 8, which means money's coming in on the Browns.
You got to wonder after last week if they're going to get a little bump because now the coach can do what he actually wants to do and not have to play Deshaun Watson. And for those of you who saw last week, Deshaun Watson dropped back and then he was going to take off and you just see that Achilles snap. And there were people booing him before the game and people cheering when he got injured.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know that we need to stoop to his level.
No.
People, you know what I mean? I haven't really gotten to talk about this yet. He is not my favorite person and will never be. Totally fine with the fact that he is going through a little bit of karma right now, but I don't know that we need to stoop to his level, do we?
No.
So, because half those people weren't booing him because of what he did. They were booing him because he was bad at football.
Terrible quarterback.
Yeah, right. So it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like you're just kind of using your morality as an excuse to be like, oh, boo. No, that's not true of everybody. I'm sure there were a couple Browns fans there that were just like, I've hated this whole thing the whole time, and I am thrilled that you are no longer going to be on the field for my team. But I feel like most people, if he was, playing Josh Allen type quarterback right now, most of them would have been real upset about it. So I'm not crazy about the people booing him. You don't need to do that.
And for a team that destroyed the quarterback market by giving a $250 million fully guaranteed contract to somebody who had some off the field concerns and injuries.
I kind of want to push back on that. It could have destroyed the quarterback market. And it definitely made some of the negotiations tougher immediately after. But that being said, the NFL owners put their foot down after that and said, we are not doing that. We're not doing fully guaranteed contracts. And it turned into Deshaun Watson's contract just being a complete outlier. And so while it had the potential to destroy the quarterback market, I feel like it's kind of turned into a look at those idiots type thing. You know what I mean? So
the problem is it bumped up in the year that it happened and the year after. It bumped up the overall kind of range that people were talking about some of these quarterbacks. And without that as a precedent, and yes, they said we're not doing fully guaranteed, especially for a position that gets hit a lot. But you think Daniel Jones is going to get the kind of money he got for mediocre play?
It would have been close, dog. Yeah. I really do think so. It would have been close.
From an economics perspective, I don't see people like him, like Daniel Jones, getting that kind of money for what was at the time very mediocre quarterback play.
Oh, I think,
and you can't just reset the quarterback market because you're the next quarterback to get a contract. There's got to be some level of
no, but that's not how the NFL has worked for a real long time. Like, I know that's what makes logical sense, but that's how the NFL has worked for some time. And to your point, I'm not saying that didn't happen, but I also am not saying that wasn't going to happen anyway, where you get a massive bump in how much more quarterbacks are making than anybody else. I just think that with the way that the TV money was coming in, it was going to do that anyway. And what the TV money did, which if you don't know, I mean, that's when you see it on YouTube, the switch from DirecTV to YouTube, the extra edition of primetime games where you've got Amazon Prime, Peacock, all these ESPN showing on ESPN Plus specifically, all that kind of stuff. That all has been added revenue for the NFL, and it's why the cap keeps going up. And I feel like because of that, this would have been something that happened anyway. It just kind of saved the NFL from itself in that situation.
That's fair. And Kevin Stefanski, Browns head coach, said Wednesday officially they were going to go with Jameis.
Okay. I mean,
so it's official.
Let's elbow connected to the knee bone to the whatever, dog. Like, your elbows on your knees. Let's get it. I'll take the Browns and I'll take the full touchdown. I think the Ravens are really good. I think the Ravens are going to not think the Browns are very good. And this line is falling. It's already down to 7.5. I bet it at 8. It was 8.5 when I opened. There's a lot of money coming in on the Browns right now. Yeah. Like, what is going on? So yeah, I took Browns +8. I just think this Ravens team isn't designed to blow people out, despite the fact that they have. You know what I mean? Like, through 7 weeks of the season, they blew out the Bills. They almost blew out the Cowboys.
Took it to the line with the Chiefs.
Yeah,
no, I mean, I get it.
I just run the ball, play defense doesn't scream blowout to me. and I'm here for the Jameis magic. Like, so I'll take the Browns +8. Who you got?
My only concern here, if this was another AFC opponent, non-AFC North opponent, I could see what you're talking about. The problem is these two teams know each other. There's history, there's animosity. They play each other twice a year. So I don't think they're walking in going, oh, this is nothing. Now, if it were Deshaun Watson at quarterback, maybe they do go in and say, I'm not worried about Deshaun Watson throwing on us.
Yeah, but neither am I. I wouldn't have taken 8 points with Deshaun Watson at quarterback. I can promise you that.
So I'm actually going to take the I'm going to take the Ravens here.
Oh, we're off to it today. I mean, the two of us it's gonna be one of those days. I can feel it.
One of us is going to nail a bunch of these picks. The others,
one of us is going to have a great day, and one of us is going to have a nightmare.
Or we're both going to go 500 and get pissed off.
Yeah, I have been 500 most weeks here recently. I've been floating right around that.
I had a good week last week. I felt pretty good about. Yeah,
good. All right, Titans and Lions. I don't know. Did they find something a little bit with Mason Rudolph last week? They had the Bills on the ropes for that first half. I mean,
and the question is, they just wanted to give Will Levis another week to recover. Are they actually going to put him in? I wouldn't. I get it. He's a early round draft pick quarterback, and you're hoping he's the next guy. But Mason Rudolph came in last week. Did he look great? No, but did he do his job? He sure did.
I mean, they moved the ball pretty effectively.
They really did. The only problem was they went for it on fourth down in their territory, and then all the momentum, that first drive after the half, all the momentum switched back to the Bills. So, and a lot of that was the defense for the Titans didn't hold up. So
it looks like he's officially questionable. I don't see any official word as to if he's going to go or not.
Yeah, I don't think Will Levis is getting back in unless there's an injury to Mason Rudolph. I wouldn't personally.
Yeah, but young coach, you wonder if he feels pressure to put him back in and really make sure that he's not the guy. Yeah, I don't know. But this is in Detroit, and you said you were teasing lines here. Go ahead and you say your thing, and then everybody knows what I'm going to say after that.
I took it down from 11.5 to 9.5 at -150. So $2 gets you 333. So take your 42 cents and add 90 cents to it. Thank you. The Detroit Lions look like a real team. The Tennessee Titans don't. They also just got rid of one of their receivers, and they still have some injuries. I don't see the Titans being able to do anything. They may get beat worse than they did last week. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Lions 9.5.
Don't tell an NFL team that they are 2 scores worse than another NFL team. Just don't.
1.66 scores, please and thank you. 9.5. I didn't say 10.
Don't tell.
Nobody said 10.
Listen, and 11.5 is so 10 and 10.5 is kind of the first magic number. But the reason is because it's a touchdown and a field goal and you still win. 11.5 is another magic number because it's a touchdown and the backside of that field goal, right?
Right.
So you get the 4 points, which means if the Lions kick a field goal to make that the difference, you get that 4 points still matters. So it's another magic number and it's even money, which says to me like Vegas knows what they're doing here. Vegas knows what they're doing. I really need to re-look up this stat because I've been referencing it for like 2 years now and have not gone back and checked in on it. But 2 years ago, somebody did over the past 20 years, if you bet NFL teams that had double-digit spreads and you bet the underdog, you were hitting at about a 60% rate. Like the league is so close. It's so tight that you can't just assume that a bad team's going to get blown out. So
57.5. So it was after crunching the numbers, double digit favors are astounding 69-51 against the spread.
And then there's like 20 instances where they won straight up.
Yeah.
So don't do it. It's the NFL, dog. It is razor thin. You know what I mean? Do not bet against a 10-point spread. So I will take the Titans and the 11.5. And the nice thing about that, I got to be honest with you, the nicest thing about that, because, you know, obviously you want to pick the favorite a lot of these times. The nicest thing about that is being at the bar and just having the peace of mind that it's like, this is just my rule. It's just what I do. Like, I didn't pick it because I think the Titans are going to win. I didn't pick it because I hate the Lions. It's my rule, and it hits more times than it doesn't. So
that's fair.
Cardinals, Dolphins, the return of Tua Tagovailoa
without the Guardian cap.
Now listen, so I had heard this even before the Tua stuff, and I say that because it to me it does. The timing of it does matter. I heard that there were, I think, 4 NFL helmets that they tested that were as good, brand new ones, that were as good safety-wise as a regular helmet with the Guardian cap. And he is going to wear one of those 4 helmets, one that is specifically designed for quarterbacks. What that they've said, here's what I've heard that means, is that there is extra padding and cushion in the back. So if they fall backwards, it protects the back of their head. And then a little bit of extra padding on the sides for the quarterbacks. So I know Shador wears one of those too. I'll be interested to see what he comes out in, but that is why he won't be wearing a Guardian cap. And listen, at the end of the day, it's not our life, you know? So you can disagree with it if you want, but
him playing this year concerns me. 2, the NFL Players Association is going to get some blowback if he gets hit again. If he has another concussion this year, in the media, I'm not talking financially, I'm not talking criminally, I'm not talking anything like that. What I'm saying is they had a chance to say, look, my guy, you've had a couple of years and a bunch of head trauma. You may need to chill. And the Dolphins ownership, Tua and Tua's camp and management and everybody else, and the NFLPA, if he gets hit one more time and winds up getting carted off because his brain stops working, you think there's not going to be – we talk about player safety left and right.
No, I don't, because I think everybody who's not him has done everything they can in this situation. Now, if you go back to a couple of years ago and you're talking about him playing on a Thursday night after a back injury versus the Bills, and that is all ridiculous and blah, blah, blah. This time, it was a month off. It was neurological consultants. It was talking to his family. It was his choice. And I think NFLPA Dolphins, they are all absolved. Tua knows what he's doing. There's only one person to blame if he's out there on the field like this again. Okay. And don't get me wrong, I'm not making fun of it. Like, that is a terrifying scene, but like when you watch somebody go through it and you've seen it so many times, at some point it's on the person to protect himself.
100%. I don't disagree.
He's not interested in protecting himself.
He is responsible for it. What I'm telling you is, for a league that talks about player safety, for the NFLPA,
you can't force him to retire. What are you going to do, Dave?
I just wonder how much of the, like, do you renegotiate the contract and say, look, if you get hit, sure, it's a bad look, but you're also saying you are at substantially higher risk of concussions at a higher grade, a worse impact, which makes you a higher risk. And us giving you all this money, we understand you're putting your body on the line for us, but also one more. Like how many do you get? It's like
They
Billy
knew that
Bob
when they
from
signed him.
Friday
Listen,
Night Light. Not
that was
correct.
not a question when they signed him in the offseason.
It should have been.
I mean, I'm sure they brought it up in the negotiations and everything like that, but they signed him knowing that this was a threat. Like all the stuff that happened 2 years ago had already happened. You know what I mean? So you knew this was a risk coming in, and you
again,
decided to do it anyway.
as a Bills fan, anything that hurts the Dolphins, the Patriots, or the Jets, Mazel tov. I'm happy about it, baby. It's fine.
I don't know if I
I
want to
don't
go
want
with
anybody.
hurts as the verbiage there, but
Yeah, I don't want anybody injured. But what I'm saying is
anything that
they
makes
dumped
them worse as a team.
they dumped 200 million into him, and they're getting not as much for him. Now let's talk
But at
about
this point,
the
it's
actual game.
on him. You know what I mean? So, all
100%.
right, let's talk about the actual football. Dolphins had a real chance to get through the time without him, essentially 500. They could have gone 2-2 without Tua if they had pulled out that game in Indianapolis last week. Instead, they lose it last second at the gun. They are 2-4. They're not dead by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
But at 3-3, they would have looked in the AFC wild card race. They would have looked real good.
Pretty good.
At 3-3. Now
game back
instead,
from
you
the
need
wild
Tua
card.
to come back and rattle off some wins is really what you need.
Right.
And the Cardinals, to me, are a little bit of an enigma. They win last week against the Chargers. It feels like they have moments where you're like, damn, that's actually a pretty good team. Like, they are frisky and they are fun.
And then plenty of moments where you go, is this an NFL team? What are you doing here?
They really are really strange to me. And I want to get on board because every year there's a team that's good before we know they're good. And you can make a lot of money betting on the team that's good before you know they're good.
Washington, this guy. I bet
who
Washington.
was your team?
The Commanders.
Okay, but everybody knows they're good pretty quick here.
But I mean, the first couple weeks, I bet Commanders, and they kept winning. And when they beat Cincinnati, I think I made, I don't know, $14 on that one bet, and it was just like.
But their Super Bowl year, for me, the example that I go back to is their Super Bowl year was the Bengals. Like everybody kept being like, eventually they're going to be bad again. And they kept getting spreads that they should not have been getting. I feel like the Cardinals are a little bit of that team this year for me. Plus 4.5 here. You're giving me over a field goal. Listen, I know Tua coming back helps, but I just feel like that's too much. So I'm going to take the Cardinals here. And they've burned me a couple times here. With me believing that they're better than they are. But I don't think they're outmatched by the Dolphins. I think Tua is going to be a little bit slow coming back. I don't mean mentally. I just mean rusty. So, yeah, give me the 4.5 points for the Cardinals, even though it's West going east for an 11 o'clock.
So I actually got this bet in fairly early this week, and I had Miami minus 2.5. So
it's moved 2 whole points.
Yeah, I took that. I took Miami minus 2.5.
Yeah, I don't hate that as much.
It was the hook. Literally, if it were 3 or 3.5, not doing it. But the 2.5 is worth it for me.
Yeah. I can see that. At 4.5, I'm going to go the other way.
Makes sense.
If it was 4.5, which would you do?
I'd go Arizona. I don't know if Tua's going to come back with. I mean, chances are they want to avoid him getting hit, so it's going to be a run-heavy game with Achane and Mostert, and it's going to be all the quick hitters. He's not going to be sitting in the pocket dancing around. It's going to be either you hit the open receiver after that 3-step drop, or you dirt the shit out of that ball.
And you've got a juice towards the Cardinals or towards the Dolphins too. They want you to bet the Dolphins. So
of course they do.
Minus 105 if you take the minus 4.5. It's minus 115 if you take the plus 4.5. So they want you to bet the Dolphins, which means generally that you want to bet the other direction.
And that's why the minus 2.5 worked for me. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and take that.
All right, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets head up to New England to play the 1-6 Patriots. Another 11 o'clock game today.
Are the Patriots going to win another game?
Yeah. I think their style lends to an upset here or there. Drake May has actually been playing okay.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they have not been winning. And the fact that they can kind of pound the rock a little bit and play defense, to me, means that it can lead to upsets. Now, what you need is a team that's coming in and not thinking much of the Patriots and maybe has a big game the week after and so on and so forth. So the situation has to be right. But yeah, I think the Patriots get another game or two here. The question here is, do you think they're a full touchdown worse than the Jets, who've, guess what, Dave? Only won one more game than the Patriots have. So you want to talk shit about the Patriots? I'll unleash you on the Jets.
This is you talk about must-win games, and I think that term's thrown around way too much. Like, oh, this is a must-win game. You're like, nah, you'd want to win this game. It's an AFC East opponent. Blah 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 blah. I just don't think the Jets have a good amount of injuries this week. Aaron Rodgers is looking old. He's looking a little beat up, but he's still slinging the rock every once in a while. You've got some good receivers. Obviously, you've got another week in the system for Davante Adams. I would take the Jets. I had it at +6.5 or -6.5. I took the Jets. I don't think the talent on New England's roster is quite there. So I went with the Jets. I hate it, but you also look at it and go, if the Jets want to try and sneak into the playoffs as the 7 seed, they're going to need to get a couple of wins they should get, and this is one of those games. Now, if you're New England, you're saying, well, we're only one game behind the Jets. We can leapfrog them for what's going to be third place in the AFC East, but I took the Jets this time. I hate myself for it, but I don't know if I would hate myself any less if I went with the Patriots.
So, I mean, well, before we get into anything, thank you again to everybody watching. If you've got questions, drop them in the comments. It is your NFL pregame show, which means we answer any questions that you have about fantasy, about bets, about Survivor, about Stardom Situm, whatever you got. Bring it in. Dave and I will talk about it. Sterl's out this week. He'll be back next week. So there's your little lowdown here. For me, let's have a real talk about the Jets real quick here. They, by the way, if you see me constantly looking down my phone, it's because we're literally betting as we're talking. We're putting our money where our mouth is. So that's why we're constantly looking down at our phone. I know Dave bets a lot of them beforehand, but that's why I'm constantly looking down. I'm not ignoring you, I promise. But let's have a real talk about the Jets here. It hasn't looked right. And there are drives that it does, and it looks real good. But it hasn't looked right all season. And it just makes you wonder. I mean, it was funny. All the Davante Adams stuff happened, and everybody said, oh, well, does Davante Adams play D-line? Because, like, that's what they need is they need some help on the D-line, and you're just going and getting another receiver. It's stupid, is their point. Well, guess who does play D-line? Hassan Reddick. And
he's in now.
Right? And so, does it affect this game? No, I don't think so. But coming down the stretch here, that Jets team has addressed a couple of its needs. One of them was having another competent weapon on offense aside from
playmaker.
Yep. And the other one was they needed some work on the defensive line. It had not been as good as the years past. I don't think that necessarily pass rusher is the first thing that comes to mind, but Hassan Reddick will help overall that defensive line be better. And so it's weird because you've seen the engine kind of flare up a couple times here for the Jets. And they still haven't been able to get it right. Now, their 2 wins are against 2 bad teams. I can't remember who they are. One is the Titans. Can't remember who the other one is, but they're literally the only 2 bad teams that the Jets have played so far on their schedule. And their 5 losses are to tough teams, man. You're talking San Francisco when they were more healthy, Buffalo, Pittsburgh. I mean, the losses that they have, they're against good teams. So I think the Jets are kind of in this weird spot of, well, they lost to the teams I thought they probably should have lost to. And they beat the teams I thought they probably should have beat. Go ahead.
So they beat the Patriots week 3.
Yeah.
So it's Titans and Patriots are their 2 wins. And you go, okay. But when you look at losses, the Niners, you expect that. Broncos, that game was 10-9. That was such bad football. And then they lost to Minnesota. Right. And then Minnesota, you expect that loss. Buffalo, obviously as Bills fans, we wanted that loss. And then losing to the Steelers in a pretty substantial fashion with Russ Wilson at quarterback. So
so when you look at it, they beat the teams you expected them to beat, and they lost to the teams you expected them to lose to, save the Broncos in a rainstorm. Now, listen, wasn't their best showing either. You know what I mean? So I don't want to give them too many excuses, but I only say that to say, I feel like this team can get right if the leadership can hold them together. And firing Saleh, I don't think is going to help the leadership hold them together, but it's at least a rallying cry where if you can lean on Aaron Rodgers to be a 40-year-old vet and lead that room, I think Jets can turn it around a little bit. So this is a game that I expect them to win because I think everybody's down on them. I think the spread's only 7, but I feel like the spread would be more like 9 if everybody wasn't as down on the Jets as they are right now. So I'll take the Jets -7 and bet on them. I think the next couple of weeks I'm going to bet on them getting right because I think their numbers, their lines the next couple of weeks are going to be too low.
Fair enough. So again, I got this, I want to say it was yesterday, and it was Jets -6.5. I feel good about the 6.5. Obviously, that hook makes it a little nicer where it's not a full touchdown. It's in New England. Does that do anything for me? No, it's not a huge travel day for anybody. It's not a change of time zone. It's not, going all the way to the West Coast or all the way to the East Coast. So I took the.
And here's my chance to take a shot at Patriots fans. There is no home field advantage created by being by going to Foxborough. I know they think they're the shit after 20 years of domination,
and they were.
Every field has home field advantage when your team is really good. Yes, of course you can pack that building and be loud when your team is winning. So you can go thank Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. But the real home field advantages are there when the team isn't good, and Patriots don't got it.
No.
That stadium, have you watched a game in that stadium?
Sad.
Yeah, it's like dead.
I mean, happy for me, sad generally.
It's like dead. Okay, I'm sorry. So I jumped in on you. Who did you bet here? What was your 6.5? You said
-6.5 for the Jets.
Okay,
because that felt like
Falcons,
a good.
What's that?
That felt like a good. They're going to win by a touchdown. I can live with that. I don't think the Patriots are there yet, and I think the Jets will put some of it together. And they're going to try and make a push here to not get too far behind, by the midpoint of the season.
We got to stop you from betting early. It's less fun when you do. Falcons, Bucks, both 4-3 teams. I don't really know what to do with the Falcons, man. I keep thinking that they're going to figure it out, and they just do not.
You made the reference 2 or 3 weeks ago. You said, when a jet engine's trying to catch and it's just kind of sputtering, but eventually it catches and takes off. You couldn't have been more right. This Falcons team has some weapons, has some skill, has some talent. and it just seems like they don't have legs. You're like, they're ready to run this race and they just don't have legs. And every time they go for it, you go, this is disappointing.
Yeah.
And they feel like the Cardinals to me, where you're like, you have some talent, you've got a little skill, put it together and do something, and you see it for flashes,
the Cardinals
and then it's
are
gone.
young.
Yeah.
The Falcons are not young. And it's the symptom of how they built this team. The vets in that room should know it's time to turn it on. And by the way, welcome to halfway through the season.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
there's not a lot of time left. You're looking at your watch.
Like the vets in that room should know, like, all right, now if we're gonna be real, if we're really gonna make a run at this is when we need to start playing good football. And they just haven't done it yet. Here's the thing. What a Monday night game for Tampa Bay. I mean, Godwin out for the year. Evans out with hamstring and a head. I think both of them were issues.
Yeah.
I do not know if this Bucs team has enough on a short week to do it. So as untrusting of the Falcons as I am, the fact that it's only 2.5 leads me to say I'll take the Falcons and I'll lay the 2.5, just because I think Tampa Bay is going to be a mash unit coming in here.
And I know this week there was some talk from Tampa Bay. They're like, yeah, we still feel good about our receiving core, blah, blah, blah. And you go, with your two best receivers out, who are you throwing to? And is your run game good enough to do enough damage to keep you in a game? I don't know if it is. So, yeah, I also went with the Falcons -2.5.
Well, and it's not just about who you're throwing to, it's about who's throwing it. And I love Baker. I really do.
I know.
If Baker, I think Baker is an above average quarterback that gets paid as an average quarterback.
That's
now,
fair.
I don't think he's MVP. I don't think he's all world. I think he's a Pro Bowl level quarterback.
Slightly above average.
Yeah. Who Pro Bowl. Who cares about the Pro Bowl, right? I think he's a Pro Bowl level quarterback who gets paid like a replacement level starter because all the shit he's been through. That being said, he's not going to elevate these other guys who are playing in place of an injured Chris Godwin and an injured Mike Evans. So I looked real quick. I didn't see if Evans is officially out. I'm assuming that he is on a short week.
Yeah.
But it just, to me, I don't think they have enough firepower. If it was a full 3, I might consider it. Because that Bucs defense, I mean, the Falcons offense has not been able to score. Let's put it that way.
No.
And I think the Bucs defense can hold them down. But I think the Falcons win probably by a field goal here. All right.
So
a lot of 11
names on the Tampa Bay wide receivers.
What's that?
Yeah, a lot of them. Real quick, look at listen to these names for the wide receivers for Tampa Bay. Mike Evans out, Godwin on IR, Cameron Johnson on IR, Raheem Jarrett questionable, which basically leaves you Jalen McMillan, Sterling Shepard, Trey Palmer, and Ryan Miller. Is Baker going to be able to, like you said, elevate any of those guys to a game-winning receiver?
Yeah, I'm not counting.
That's asking a lot.
It's really, if you're betting on them, you're betting that their defense is going to shut down that Falcons offense and that Baker's going to need to find a way to score 17 points. You know what I mean? That's I'm not saying that's not doable. Their run game has actually been pretty good, surprisingly, the Bucs. So I'm not saying that's not doable. You can put up 17 and win, but I just think that's you're betting. But the Falcons, I think, are going to turn it on at some point. So
It could be this week. It could be next year. But I feel pretty good with the injuries.
Better not be next year.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I love their head coach too. I love Raheem Morris. I really do. I think he's a great guy. Everybody that I've worked with that has worked with him before tells me how awesome he is. I think he's a good people person. I think he's good with X's and O's. So I like him a lot. I hope he does well. But he's got to get it turned on here at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 3 more 11 a.m. games.
Yeah, we'll do 2 of them, and then we'll take a break. We'll leave the big one for the other side of the commercial. Packers, Jaguars. Packers headed. Now, this is really an interesting scenario for the Jaguars here because the Packers are headed down to Jacksonville. Jaguars have been in London for 2 weeks. Right. And so, like, this is as much of a road game for them, travel-wise, as it is for the Packers. Teams have been, the past couple of years, given the option if they want their bye week coming back across the ocean. And apparently the Jaguars have decided the answer is no. I find that really, really
doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, if you're going to spend 2 weeks over there as the Jags, yeah, take your break when you come back. I mean, body clocks completely adjusted to London time. Now, that's not a huge deal because what that really means is that you're playing at like 7 o'clock at night, even though you're playing at 11 o'clock in the morning.
But it makes a difference.
But I mean, it's no different than a primetime game. Like it would be like playing Sunday Night Football, right?
And Jacksonville's not used to primetime, so it would feel weird to
them. But just the amount of travel. I mean, Jacksonville to London is not a short flight. So yeah, I don't know. It's really puzzling for me. Jaguars getting 3.5 at home. I love home dogs. I really do. But I don't know if I can. I don't know 3.5. Who do you like here? What'd you bet?
I can't bet Jacksonville. Green Bay looks like a solid team. They're doing the right things at the right times. Like you said, coming back from 2 weeks in London is kind of a twist, and not taking the bye week seems to be a bad idea. But this is a team that's reeling anyways. So I went ahead and took Green Bay. That felt like the easiest bet of the day.
Yeah, which makes me not want to bet it. I mean, every time you think something's a slam dunk, it's called fading it.
Come on.
I don't know. I have no logical reason here to say the Jaguars should win this game or keep it within 3 even. God, if I was trying to make an argument for that, how would I do that? Well, Jordan Love's been hit a lot and thrown a lot of interceptions. Jaguars do have the defensive line to get after him, so maybe they can force some mistakes that way. Offensively, I just don't feel like Trevor Lawrence is as bad as he's played. But
he's been playing that way since the midpoint of last year.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say. Is once it's in your head, it's in your head. Brian Thomas Jr. looks legit. I mean, he is a real good wide receiver.
Make your pick, baby. Come on.
My God, I just
talk to me.
3.5 makes me want to take the Jags. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take the Jags. I have no idea why. I can't tell you.
And this is going to be the week that Brian Thomas Jr. goes for 210 and 3 touchdowns out of nowhere.
No, that's not how my luck works. This is gonna be the week that he goes 2 catches for 10 yards. Is what it's gonna be.
It could always be a Gabe Davis game.
Yeah, right. All right, and then the last one we'll do before the commercial break. We'll save the big one of the morning for the other side. Colts and Texans. Yes, that's not the big one. Sorry, Colts fans. Colts getting 5 points, going down to Houston. Now, this one feels like the slam dunk to me. No?
Is Joe Flacco playing quarterback?
Oh, that's a great question.
Because he should. He absolutely should. Anthony
no,
Richardson,
I don't think they can move off Anthony Richardson.
They can't. They absolutely they can't, and keep him from getting in his own head. So this feels like a disaster season for the Colts, where you hoped your young quarterback would come back healthy and really put it together. And that's exactly what has not happened. And this team has only looked lively when Joe Flacco was quarterback. I got to take, obviously the obvious pick here is Houston. I don't know if I will pick Indy the rest of the year unless they start Flacco.
Well, 5 points is significant.
Yeah, it's not bad, but Indy is not a good team right now.
I think CJ Stroud's going to have a bounce back game. He really struggled in the second half last week. And I just think he's a really good quarterback. I do think he's going through a little bit of a sophomore slump. You do see that with quarterbacks from time to time. There's something about quarterbacks in their second year where they figure it out and they start maybe overthinking it a little bit because they think they've got it figured out, but instead of just seeing it and doing it, now they are trying to overthink. But I don't think that's a long-term problem for CJ. So I like CJ Stroud a lot. I think he gets right this game. I don't think the Colts are as good as their record says they are.
They're not. But their record's good because Joe Flacco played. Yes. Last week they got lucky because a Miami Dolphins kicker donked it off the left upright when it could have put him up. And they got the ball back, went down, kicked a field goal.
Listen, Anthony Richardson offers them something different.
Being able to run for a first
style
down.
Of offense that they need to run. Jonathan Taylor's back this week. I can make a case for the Colts if you want me to. Their defense has played well.
They've got some pieces. Richardson, while he's going to get you a first down with his legs and maybe a 40-yard scramble once a game, he's not it for me.
All right, well, I'll take the Texans -5, but it's been the Colts a lot this year. This one feels like God, I don't know that I love doing that, but you're going to come back and bite me in the ass, I feel like. All right, let's take a quick little commercial break here. Back on the other side, we will talk Eagles, Bengals, and then all the afternoon and primetime games. Remember, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. We will answer anything. Fantasy, Survivor, betting, whatever. Hit us with the questions. We got you. And Sterl's out for the day, but we will be back on the other side of the commercial. All right. So as the commercial runs, if you are still here with us, we like to do the commercial question where we talk about something silly, stupid, ask about a stupid question. First, I've got to say, let's have everybody talk about the headroom that David leaves on his camera every week. every week. It's like, woo.
This will be painted next week, so don't worry about it.
It's still not good, David. It's still that's better. Now it's too much, but hey, listen, we can't ask.
There's no pleasing you.
It was just funny because you were looking like Wilson before. Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you got the reference. All right, so did I ask you about Uncrustables the other week?
You did not.
So meme going around about the number of Uncrustables each team eats. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
So the meme's going around. Broncos with a hefty lead on the rest of the country, eating 700 Uncrustables per week. There were teams with data that was not available, like the Buffalo Bills, left it undetermined how many Uncrustables they eat a week. So 2 questions. 1, how many Uncrustables do you eat in a sitting? And 2, do you eat them frozen or not?
How many would I eat in a sitting? Max is probably 4, but that usually means I've eaten recently. But it's got some protein. It's got some carbs. It's a good post-workout snack. I don't eat them frozen, but a friend of mine put one in a panini press and one in a what are the Instapot thing? Air fryer. Sorry, air fryer. And like,
Instapot is gonna make it like soggy and terrible.
yeah, no, they hit it with a little butter spray and then put it in the air fryer, and it came out like crispy and a little melty in the middle. And I was like,
yeah, that sounds delicious. I might try it.
okay, get after it.
So I not a big Uncrustable guy, but we found a deal on them, so we had bought them recently. And I ate it frozen, and I was like, no. I mean, it's fine, it's not bad, but it wasn't.
That'd be like eating the like toaster strudels completely frozen.
Dog. I mean, people are crazy about frozen Uncrustables, and it's not. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to judge them too much, but it's not for me. Now, I do like that like hard peanut butter because I like chocolate peanut butter ice cream. You know what I mean? Like I like that like peanut butter turned into a candy bar kind of
density. Yeah.
But the air fryer sounds like a good idea. Maybe I'll try that. If you're just joining us back from the commercial, we're talking Uncrustables because, of course, the NFL put out stats as to how many Uncrustables each team eats. I wonder who did the legwork on that. Could be totally made up. Who knows? But the Broncos with a hefty lead. The question was simply, do you eat them frozen or not? I was not impressed with them frozen. And I think the idea is that you like put them in your lunchbox frozen. So then by the time lunch rolls around, they're like unfrozen. And I was like, I think I would like that a lot better. But then Dave said somebody put them in an air fryer, and that
because the outside got like baked, so it was like a little crispy. They put some butter spray on it, but then the inside, the peanut butter was like warm and melty, and it was like sweet and delicious. Yeah, I was.
We're warm and melty. We're talking. You know,
I was there. I was with it. Yeah.
All right, our last 11 o'clock game is Eagles and Bengals. It's kind of the game of the morning. Eagles plus 2.5 going to Cincinnati. Two teams here that I don't think the season has gone how they've expected so far. But Eagles got right with a game against the Giants last week. I think I don't like Nick Sirianni so much, and I hadn't been on the Nick Sirianni hate train until this year, but it's kind of clear that he is not
even the end of last year.
No,
you had all that
they were falling apart at the end of last year, and I was like, don't get me wrong, I thought it was a mess, but I didn't think Nick deserved as much hate as he got last year. This year, I think he deserves the hate, but they're 4-2. Couple wins against teams that they should have beaten the last 2 weeks, including the Giants last week. But I think they found a little something in how they should play the game, right? Like,
give the ball to Saquon Barkley.
Give the ball to one of the best players in the NFL and let him go.
It really doesn't seem like a subterfuge or a great strategy to go.
Congratulations, you paid him $16 million a year. Feed him the rock. But you also want to keep him healthy long term, so you don't want to go too overboard with that. On the flip side of that, the Bengals, man, I was saying this a couple weeks ago, like they are going to get back to 500. As part of that discussion, it was the Eagles being a disaster, which they are not anymore. So the Bengals here, even if they lose this game, let me pull up their schedule. I thought 6-6 was where they were going to get back to 500. So let me pull up their schedule here and see what the rest of their month looks like. So it's Eagles, Raiders, Ravens, Chargers. What's the game after that? Steelers. Okay. So, I mean, it's pretty rough here. Like you get one easy game versus the Raiders, but they got to start winning some of these tough games. They got to beat the Eagles, the Ravens, the Steelers. Like you got to win probably at least one of those and then take care of business versus the Chargers and the Raiders, and you can get to 6-6.
These are two of the smallest injury reports I've seen. Not a lot happening for the Bengals, though.
Man, people don't get to pick the size of their injury report, okay? So don't blame them for their
It's like
small injury report.
they're not even trying. It's like, do you even want people on your injury report? But yeah, T. Higgins.
God picks out their injury reports for them, Dave.
That's right. So T. Higgins came up with a quad injury, limited in practice yesterday or Friday. So that's interesting. And then the only kind of semi-important ones for Philly are Mekhi Becton, offensive tackle, out with a concussion, Dallas Goedert out with a hamstring, and then Bryant Young, their defensive tackle, out with a hamstring.
All right, so who'd you bet here?
I bet the Bengals. I don't want them to win. I would prefer the Eagles to win this game personally, but I think they are catching on. The Bengals are catching on pretty quick, and I think they understand that in the AFC, if you get a couple games behind, you may not come back. You know, when you're in a division right now with Pittsburgh, yeah, you may not win this division, but if you come in 500, you can get that 7 seed and figure it out. Now, if, as we discussed, Philly decides to start handing the ball off to their rock star, this may be a blowout game, but the +2.5,
Philly's just too talented for me to not pick the 2.5. And these are two teams where the defenses haven't played up to expectation. But if I had to bet on one of their defenses figuring it out, I'm going to bet on Vic Fangio rather than Lou Amaruno. That's not a shot at Lou. It's just Uncle Vic is crazy. He's a crazy old man who knows how to call defense. So with the fact that they can run the ball, with the talent that they have on the outside, and I think they do have, I like their talent on defense. I think they should be able to figure it out. So give me the Eagles with the 2.5 here. I just think this is going to be a close game. Looks like a lot of the money coming in on the Bengals. It is juiced towards you betting the Eagles. So they don't want you betting the Bengals minus the 2.5. But I'm going to take the Eagles. I'm going to take the 2.5 points. Should be a fun game to watch. All right, afternoon slate, Saints and Chargers. God, this is maybe the game I want to watch the least today. Saints getting 7 points. I don't think that's enough. I think the Chargers -7 is where I'm going here. What do you got?
I had it at -6.5 yesterday morning when I bet it. If it were 7.5, I'd probably still bet it. So I'm taking Chargers. The Saints, I know they came out of the gate hot, but with all their injuries and just what that team's looked like the last few weeks, Chargers are gonna get my money today.
Yeah, I think Dennis Allen might get fired after this week, if I'm being completely honest.
It's very close. He wasn't on my next to get fired list, but
the Chargers also need this game. Like, if you are going to stay in the conversation here, you cannot lose to the Saints at home, which I know there aren't really many true home games for the Chargers, but Saints fans aren't taking over.
They don't travel that well.
SoFi, yeah. So you should actually have a home game here, and you got to have it. So I think the Chargers pull this one out.
Now, this next game is one that I'm interested to get your take on because I talked about it earlier. I've been leaning the Commanders basically all season, and it's done me really well.
Let's save that one, and let's save the Bills. Let's jump to Panthers Broncos, and then we'll talk about the two good games. So Panthers Broncos. Panthers getting 11 points here. Bryce Young starting for the Panthers. Listen, I don't think the Broncos should be 11-point favorites over anybody. So you know my rule. I don't have to tell you, but at the same time, listen, I've been higher on the Broncos than anybody else. I will show you the bets to prove it. But not 11 points better than anyone. I don't think so.
No. And Carolina, is this Bryce Young, saying I was benched? I know I fucked up, and here I come. Maybe not. but 11 points. Oh, no thanks, Broncos. Now, if you told me 6.5, I'd take that. If you told me 9.5, I might take that. I can't. The Broncos
Especially
have
with
bit
the
me a
way the
couple times.
Broncos play ball, I just don't. Yeah, no,
No.
I'm not. Even 6.5, I don't know if I would have. But it would have been interesting. That would have been a thought for me.
Because then you're looking at 26-14, somewhere in that range, and you're like,
Yeah, but
or
you're also betting the Broncos are going to find a way to get in the end zone, which
has not been the case.
So, all right. Which one you want to do next? Bills, Seahawks, or Bears, Commanders?
Bears, Commanders.
Bears, Commanders, 1 versus 2. And two guys who have led their teams to respectable records after they were, well, I guess the Bears were okay last year, but, that awful trade from the Panthers. Anyway, Bears 4-2, Commanders 5-2. Jaden Daniels had a rib injury. I think he's good to go. Have you seen anything on that?
I didn't see the most recent injury report, but I'll pull it up while you discuss.
Well, so Jaden Daniels, they blew somebody out last week. Who did they blow out last week? I don't remember. Maybe the Panthers. Panthers.
Yeah.
Blew out the Panthers last week, and in the middle of that, Jaden Daniels ended up with a rib injury. He ended up not finishing the game.
Questionable for today's game.
Yeah, it had been questionable all week. And so I had wondered if we got any info as to if he was going to start or not. I imagine if Caleb Williams is on the other side, if I'm Jaden Daniels, I won't be out there.
I'm playing.
I won't be out there. And he's a gamer like that. I bet he feels the same way. Bears getting a point here. I think the Bears defense is much better than the Commanders defense, but I think the Commanders offense is much better than the Bears offense.
If Jaden Daniels is at quarterback.
Yeah. That's not a shot at the Bears offense because the Bears offense still has plenty of talent. I don't love their offensive line so much, but on the outsides, they've got plenty of talent. So I don't know. I'm kind of a toss up here. You don't need to take the point. You could just bet money line, but what you got, Dave? Who'd you bet here?
And while I've ridden with the Commanders all season, I'm going with the Bears this week. I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to play. I think they're going to give him one more week. I think they have a record where if they lose a game, it's not the worst thing that ever happened. Yes, you're right. I would want to be out there if I were him. I just don't know if they're going to risk bringing him back too soon. So for me, I guess if Jaden Daniels plays, I would lean towards the Commanders. If not, like maybe this is when you bet as soon as the injury report comes out. But if the injury report comes out and Jaden Daniels isn't playing, that line may swing pretty quick.
Yeah. Wait, so who'd you bet?
I went with the Bears.
You went with the Bears. On the road?
Yep.
On the road against a team whose fans are rabid because they finally have a good football team for the first time in 20 years?
Will they be as rabid if Jaden Daniels isn't out there?
Hell yes, they will. Have you met Commanders fans?
I grew up with them. I know them very well.
Area. Those are real fans that have been dying for this moment. Jaden Daniels are not out there. Yeah, I'll take the Commanders. There now. See, real home field advantage. There you go.
Correct. That's fair.
Stadium might be falling apart, but they'll still fill it up and make a lot of noise. So I will take the Commanders. It's really more of a heart bet than anything, which is weird because I don't have anything against the Bears, but I don't know. You saw the Commanders go toe-to-toe with the Ravens. I think that's a legit team. the Bears, I still need to see them do some work against some real good teams to really believe in them. And then the Tom Brady game of the day. Yeah, that's right. I get to listen to freaking Tom Brady call my football game today because I didn't get enough of him over the past 25 years. Bills at Seahawks. Bills favorites on the road. Listen, man, I know there's a big home field advantage in Seattle. I do believe in that.
It's not what it used to be, though.
There's a lot of Bills fans in Seattle right now. Like,
was it Vivid Seats that said 57% Bills fans?
Always, I mean,
no,
but just like from every year, it feels like Bills Mafia kind of picks a city and just is like, this is our game now. I am the captain now. And that's what it felt like. It was Tennessee a couple years ago when the Titans were good and they just took over
Vegas.
Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It feels like Seattle is that game this year. Bills fans always travel well. This one feels a little bit different. Bills 3-point favorites on the road,
which is crazy.
That is absolutely nuts. I am not the biggest fan of the Seahawks, but I didn't know everybody else wasn't either. So I don't bet the Bills games because I feel like it's rose-colored glasses a little bit. I would take the Bills minus 3 points here, but I don't love it. There's a strong part of me that would think to take the Seahawks plus 3. If it was 3.5, I'd probably take it. Did you bet this one, or if not, what are your thoughts on it at least?
I got it at Bills minus 2.5.
Okay.
And I took the Bills. If they don't have DK Metcalf today after the knee injury last week, they've got a bye week coming up. They may just give him time to rest up because this is an AFC team playing an NFC team. While you don't want to lose any games, if you're going to lose a game as an NFC team, give it to the AFC squad and don't worry about it too much. You don't want to rush him back and wind up losing him for the season with some sort of stupid injury or making it worse. Now, do I think Kenneth Walker III is going to absolutely steamroll our defensive line? I do. Do I think
you wonder if they found something in Atlanta last week? It was a real impressive victory for the Seahawks down in Atlanta. I mean, they dominated that football game, and I don't think anybody expected them to. So, once again, home dog here and a little bit underestimated. I feel like that's going to put a little bit of a chip on the Seahawks shoulder. That being said, this Bills team, is if we're having honest conversations about where these two franchises are, Bills team is looking at that number 1 seed saying we've got to get there, and they can't afford any slip ups if they're going to. They need to win this game. They need to beat Miami the week after that. They need to beat the Colts the week after that. And then they need to beat the Chiefs the week after that if they want to really talk about getting the number 1 seed. The Seahawks, on the other hand, that NFC West,
wide open.
It's a mess right now. It is a mess right now. And so if you're the Seahawks, you're probably sitting there thinking to yourself, like, even if we drop this game, we can still win the NFC West with the way that the Niners are beat up. I mean, the Rams might be our biggest threat. You know what I mean? The Cardinals might be a bigger threat. So don't get me wrong, I don't think that they're going into a game saying like, oh, we can lose, but it's just the urgency for the two teams I think is going to feel a little bit different. And
so the Bills are in trouble at linebacker right now with injuries, but I'm a little less worried about that because I trust our secondary, which is weird for me to say. I trust our cornerbacks. Our safeties is week to week, but right now, again, you're expecting, at least I'm expecting the Seahawks to run the hell out of this ball, but they've got tackle issues where they're going to be starting some garbage tackles, and I'm expecting Greg Rousseau to do some damage. I'm expecting our defensive line to win some of the battles in the trenches that maybe they haven't been winning the past couple of weeks just based on skill level alone. So I think they're going to try and run the ball. I don't think it's going to go as well as they had hoped, but I still think they're going to break off chunk plays. And Kenneth Walker's a monster. I like watching him play, and he's shown that he can do it. So with DK out and their offensive line kind of in shambles, I felt pretty good about the 2.5. Of course, that could be a Tyler Bass field goal to win the game, which.
Yeah. So don't get in that position.
Right.
So yeah, listen, there's no doubt that the Bills defensive line is going to have to play well today. No Dwayne Carter either. So it'll be interesting to see. All right. Final afternoon game. Remember, like, subscribe, follow. Sterl's out for this week, but he will be back. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. We'll try to get a couple answered for you. If you've got any fantasy or betting questions or anything like that. And then you see our handles both here and here. Go ahead, give us a follow. You know what I mean? But wasn't that good? I felt like that was pretty good. All right, Chiefs and Raiders, the final afternoon game. Chiefs on the road in Vegas, which means absolutely nothing. Just means a home game in Las Vegas. Raiders getting 8.5 points. I mean, Gardner Minshew's back in, if that does anything for you. The Raiders seem to beat the Chiefs like once every 2 or 3 years, just randomly. I don't know if this is
Christmas last year. Was that Christmas last year?
I think that was 2 years ago, wasn't it?
2 years ago, yeah.
But like, yeah, every couple of years they just beat the Chiefs randomly. I would love for that to be today, but 8.5 isn't enough to convince me that it is. So I'll take the Chiefs here. And they're notorious for not covering. I imagine that they are going to break my heart and not cover, and still win. Listen, if you don't cover and you lose, that won't break my heart. But I feel like they're going to win and not cover, and that's going to be really annoying. So that's who I got here. Who do you got?
I actually teased this one down to -6.5. So I went Kansas City -6.5. I think they'll win by a touchdown. I think that's pretty safe. And I hope they lose. I would rather give that $2 to BetMGM right now and get a Chiefs loss. But I didn't feel comfortable because they are so bad winning against the spread and pulling out these last second, hey, we've played like garbage all game. And then whether it's a pass interference or somebody's toe is barely out of bounds or whatever, and pulling it out last second. No thanks. So I took it down to 6.5. That's what I was comfortable with.
Listen, if you bet these bullshit lines, you have to tell us what the odds you got on them are.
Let's see. So for that one,
so that's
minus 185. Yeah.
Okay, so you could have done that. You could have put yourself in a little 6-point teaser there, but
I put $2 in. Odds were -185. Payouts 308. So $1.08 if I win.
Oh, it's brutal. I mean, why even? What are we doing here? All right. Well, so he's got Chiefs -6.5. I've got Chiefs -8.5. That Raiders team, I don't know, man. They're in shambles right now. They really are.
At one point, they had Devontae Adams, so at least you could say Devontae could have a 200-yard, 2-touchdown game. Now you go, meh.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like somebody really wants Shedeur Sanders. That's what it feels like.
Ooh.
So, and I don't blame him. Okay. Listen, I understand. Primetime games, can we have a talk, please? Listen, I understand that you like big cities and teams that were good in the 1950s, but like, we got to stop this bullshit. I mean, really, we've got to stop putting these games on primetime. Christ. I mean, I don't know what else to say to you. Everybody is still going to watch. It doesn't matter if you put on the Jaguars and the Panthers. everybody is still going to watch Sunday night and Monday night football. So you
Correct.
do not have to put on these garbage fucking teams on my primetime viewing schedule because they play in New York. Let's start with the Cowboys and 49ers. God, I don't even want to talk about this game. It's so annoying. 49ers, real beat up. And I had been saying for weeks, they're going to start getting healthier and they're going to turn a corner.
They're not.
Guess what? Yeah.
They're not.
Guess what? They re-injured everybody who came back. They're a disaster of an injury report. And I think Kyle Shanahan can figure it out. His offensive line is good enough that I think, and his defense is good enough that I think if he kind of flips his strategy and plays, I'm going to run the ball and try to beat you 17-13. I think the Niners can do it. But I think I wish Milkman was here right now. I don't know where your little troll ass is at, but of course, when his teams start doing bad, he stops showing up on the channel. In my head, man, I think oh man, I don't want to talk too much shit about him. I think Brock Purdy's been exposed. Let's put it that way. You see what he's capable of without a Pro Bowl team around him. And the answer is not much.
Brock Purdy did really well for a guy who was drafted as late as he was. Great. But guess what? You put most college quarterbacks on a team with those receivers, with George Kittle, and then
more credit than that. Not most.
With a top 5 defense,
not
and
most.
A top 5
more
offense.
Credit than that. See, this is why I wanted to be careful about how I said it. He's not an MVP, right? Like we had to have that freaking conversation last year.
He's not elevating anyone.
Be in the MVP conversation. He's not
Absolutely
an MVP. Not. Okay, but no, not most. Listen,
fine.
Even if he ceilings out at Ryan Fitzpatrick, like that's still a pretty good NFL quarterback and better than most college guys could do. I think Brock Purdy is fine. I also don't pay Brock Purdy $500 million
right
at some point here because you've seen now what he is without all those guys around him. And the answer is 3-4 and really struggling.
Yeah, this game is not enjoyable to me. In fact, I may actually prefer to watch the other late game. And I hate saying that because the other late game's not good either.
You mean the Monday nighter?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We'll get there. Cowboys. Man, they in their own building have lost to the Saints, Ravens, and Lions. And I think by like a combined 150 points or something like that. Like it has been ass beatings. I don't know, man. Does them being on the road actually help them a little bit? Because there's less pressure. There's less Cowboys fans booing them. Maybe this team, I felt like this team talent-wise wasn't as good as everybody thought it was. But they're also not bad. And so, I don't know. I mean, is this a Dak Prescott conversation that we need to have after he got paid?
Again.
Right? Like, is this a CD Lamb conversation that we need to have? Like, we need more from him? Is this a conversation about their defense? And I know they've been beat up, but I mean, we got to figure out some answers here about the Cowboys. We're 6 games into the season, 7 weeks into the season, and I don't think we have any answers about what the Cowboys are.
No, and the past decade for the Cowboys, it was, like we've got all this star power, we've got it. Oh, it's got to be the coaching. Coaching's the issue. Get rid of the coaches. Bring in other coaches. We've still got good players. Well, you're still not winning. Okay, let's get rid of the coaches. And now you have to say you've saddled your horse to Dak Prescott. you could have gotten Derrick Henry, but you decided to bring back a very aging running back. You have CeeDee Lamb, cool. Feed him. Your defense was supposed to be this like elite unit. They didn't look elite even before all the injuries got them. Now they look beat up and not great.
I don't ever think I thought they were an elite unit. I think they've got a couple really good players, but I just think they've spent so much money on their. I think they're kind of like the Raiders. Like their blue chips are good. They're blue chips. They absolutely are. CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons. You can throw Diggs in there if you want.
But the other 90% of this roster is dog shit.
Yeah, you have no middle class there. And whether it's economics or a football roster, if you don't have a middle class there, team's not going to be very good.
Ooh, Storcio in the chat.
Hot. Man, listen, yeah, there you go. Throw it up there. Storcio. Listen, I don't disagree with you, but it's built the exact opposite way. I mean, it's exactly what we're talking about. That Broncos D is built on nobody that you've ever heard of before. But if you heard me on the radio on Altitude talking about that Broncos D before the season, I said John Franklin Myers, Zach Allen. I like their three pass rushers, Benito, Cooper, and
Baron Browning.
And Browning. Their linebackers are okay. That included Singleton for me. They've got one blue chip player in Pat Surtain, and then the rest of that team, Riley Moss, just real good middle class, right? Like just a real solid defense all the way around. And if you got a good coach, you can turn that into a good defense. The Cowboys defense is exactly the opposite. You've got a couple blue chip talents and then nothing around it. So listen, is it enough to shut down the Niners today who are beat to hell? Maybe, but yeah, I just long-term, I don't know how good the Cowboys really are. And I desperately want to stop seeing them on primetime games, which I know is not going to happen. Cowboys plus 5.5. I just feel like it's too much. I feel like if the Niners win this game, they squeak it out and it's a field goal. So I'll take the Cowboys plus 5.5. Who you got?
I bet this one early as well, and it was minus 4.5 to San Francisco. Ooh, I hate this game. I think the Cowboys are going to pull this one out. I bet the Niners minus 4.5, but this feels like a game where if the Cowboys want any semblance of a season, they need to do something against a really beat up 49ers team.
Yeah. Yeah. I think both teams need to win this game, if we're being completely honest. Cowboys can probably afford to let it go a little bit more than the Niners, but that is one thing that makes it worth watching in primetime is there's going to be a little bit of desperation floating around here. And then last and maybe least, Giants and Steelers. Why I have to continue to watch Daniel Jones in primetime. Like, I get he plays in New York. I get that they are the favored New York franchise. Please, Lord, stop putting the Giants in primetime. I had to watch them on a Thursday night. I had to watch them on a Sunday night. Now I have to watch them on a freaking Monday night. Stop.
As the only game. And, of course, there's no double Monday night football game this week.
Stop doing it. Stop it. Stop it. Okay? They won like 2 games last year. Why the hell would you think in week 7 that you need to put week 8 that you need to put the Giants in primetime for the 3rd or 4th time this season? Oh, God, driving me crazy. Giants plus 6 versus the Steelers. Listen, man, that Steeler team, I don't know. You don't ever really know if they're going to score a bunch of points. So
well, you know what their defense is going to do. You know what that defense is about.
Yeah, but 6 is a lot because you never know if they're actually going to score points or not. Yeah, their defense is great. Yes, I expect them to win this game. They could win it 12-10. Like, I don't freaking know. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the Giants are not going to score points. So yes, they're going to win this game, but are the Steelers going to score enough points to cover -6? I don't know. But no, you say? You took the 6?
I went Pittsburgh -6. I think the defense is good enough. I think their offense will put it together, and I think the Giants shouldn't be on the field.
Yeah, I mean,
It may be
especially they've
7-0.
even had a couple injuries too. That it's just like, oh, the couple of players you had that were worth watching are out. Excellent, super.
Now, if this were a 7-point spread, I don't think I'd take it because I don't know if either team's going to score that much. You said this might be a 7-10 or that kind of game. This may be a 7-0 game, and I'd be okay with that.
I'm gonna bet on the Steelers putting up 20 something, and I'll bet that they cover. So if I had to pick score here, I'm saying like 24-10.
Sounds right.
Yeah, which would still hit the under, by the way, which is 30. The over-under is 36.5, and 24-10 still doesn't get you there. So yeah, I'm going to say the Steelers put up enough points to cover, but I mean, what a dog of a game on Monday night. I mean,
nobody wants that.
That's your NFL weekend. What else you got for me, Baldy?
Halloween coming up, little travel coming up. My favorite holiday, Thanksgiving, not too far away. I'm
doing a little Halloween something? You dressing up? You got a costume?
No, I'm going to be in Amarillo, Texas, doing a work thing.
Sounds like a great place to have a costume.
Sounds like a great place to have a steak.
Yeah, I'm not a big dress up guy either. So interesting. All right. Well, we will be back next week. We start at 8:00 every Sunday morning. That's 8:00 Mountain. That's 10:00 Eastern. Try to get to you before the national pregame shows so you can watch us and then flip over to them. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, follow, whether you're watching us on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, wherever, man. Give us a little bit of love here. It doesn't cost you nothing to give us a little follow. And unlike those other betting shows, we actually tell you what our picks are, because those other betting shows, they want money from you for them to give you their picks, not us. We'll give you our mediocre picks for free. Any last words?
Love you, brother. Nice work.
Love you too. We both love Sturls. We'll see him back next week. And yeah, peace out, y'all.
Have a good week.